Alright, so let's begin. So today's lecture is about effective emailing skills. So the layout of our discussion is as follows. We will discuss a formal definition of what is an email. Then we will try and understand how to make an email effective. Then we will sort out a few common email habits that cause problems. We'll try and understand them, and then finally go through the structure of an email, discuss the style and some other important aspects, and finally have a discussion if needed. So let us proceed with what is an email. So an email is something that you're already familiar with. It is a text based mail sent via the computer from one person to another. It is a push technology. That means that it waits for you. You can either send an email to many, and it can be a one to many process, and it is almost free unless you go for bulk emails and chain emailing, which is used professionally. Most of it is free. So how do you make an email effective? By selecting your audience correctly. So by selecting your audience correctly, that means whether it is a formal mail or an informal mail. Are you sending it to your junior, or are you sending it to your seniors, or to somebody in the parallel position? That means either of your colleagues. So according to that, you will design your email. Now you can also use your distribution lists if you've already divided all your contacts that have been synced with your email according to some groups or lists. That comes in handy. You must compose your messages such that the heading is meaningful. The heading or your subject, it is meaningful. Then you must keep the messages short and clear. So writing really long emails explaining everything is not really a standard practice. It is not considered professional. So what you must do instead is keep the email short and to the point, and instead use attachments that have or explain the details of your message. And lastly, you can start each message by stating its purpose or context. That helps the receiver or the recipient understand exactly what the entire thing is about. The idea is to make communication more effective, so you always state the purpose very clearly. Now let's discuss a few common email habits that cause problems. So if you midway decide to change the topic without changing the subject, that is a big problem. So each topic should have a separate email. You should make that a habit, not cram all the details into one email only. Or what you can do is you can use attachments for different topics in different files. You can do something like that. Then please try and not include multiple subjects. There should only be one subject per email. Then a highly unprofessional practice is to send an email to the wrong recipient. So when entering the recipients, you must take heed, you must take care, you must proofread the entire thing before sending it. Now another common mistake that happens is displaying addresses of recipients who are strangers to each other. Kindly do not do that unless people are known to each other or you have permission to copy a mail to other senders. What you can do is use the option BCC, that is blind carbon copy. Under this option, the recipients will not be able to see who else is receiving it. So when replying, we should try and remove the quoted text that is there, and we should take heed when forwarding a certain message. Who are we sending it to? Do we even have permission to send it? Are we spamming someone? So spamming should be avoided. So next is the structure of the email, and this is something that you're already familiar with. So just going through it formally, there is addressing, we have a subject, there is a message text body, then we have the attachments, and finally a signature. So let's discuss addressing. It's the address of the recipient. You should be clear about who is your targeted audience. You must be aware of it. Then you should use BCC to protect email addresses unless everyone knows each other. If everyone is known to each other and you want to bookmark who your email is also being received to, use the option CC or carbon copy. Finally, you must maintain an address book wherein you have distribution lists. Next up is our subject. So here a precise headline for the message which is very crisp, uses minimum number of words, advised 5 to 7 maximum should be used, makes easier to handle all of emails. Then you must avoid sending emails with no subject, as they might end up in spam. It might not be considered professional, hence overlooked. So let's look at a few subject lines. So you cannot state a greeting, hi, questions, meeting, one more thing, some thoughts. All of these are ineffective subject lines. However, efficient or effective subject lines look something like party planning meeting scheduled for 3 p.m. Also, you can include the date if it is to happen on a later date. Next is an example for somebody seeking help. So, help, I can't find the draft for Smith paper. Then there's a reminder, peer review articles due tomorrow. Then you can state the date like that. Then questions about sociology 210 project. So whichever project or that the questions are about can be written down. Then congratulations to Jennifer for winning Nobel Prize. So this is how your subject lines should look like. They should convey whether it is party planning, you need help, a reminder, some questions, or you're simply congratulating somebody. And a little elaboration of that. So the subject here for a reply can be reply, question about Smith paper was, please help with this. Now you should change subject lines when necessary. So instead of writing please help with this, reply to please help with this, you can simply write down reply to question about Smith paper. Next is, you can see that there have been a lot of replies, or it says reply, 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 forward, forward, blah, 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 blah. So then is your deadline for spring semester in Jan, right? So you can remove all these extra email prefixes. Instead, you should have just one, or either you want to retain a forward or a reply, you can choose accordingly. But the idea is to use only one prefix. Next we have the message text body. So you already know that the message should be focused, very precise, clear and readable. You must make it short. Brevity is a sign of professionalism. So brevity and clarity. Then you must segregate your information into paragraphs or different sentences. Again, your sentences should have spaces and the spaces should be uniform. Now break into paragraphs, we already know that. Skip lines in between, this is for spacing, yes. And avoid any fancy typefaces or smileys. Professionally, you're advised not to use that. Next, try and close your message text with a greeting like warm regards or something like that, which is appropriate. So what you can do is use asterisks to highlight your text if you must, or you have a lot of formatting options already given. So don't overuse it. Overusing formatting options is a big no. You must write in plain text, and the minimum font you can use is 12 to 16. It shouldn't be entirely in capitals. No. And most of it shouldn't be underlined. Avoid that. So now overemphasis. Next, write in standard professional English with capitalization and correct spelling. Also, you must remember to be grammatically on point, no grammatical errors. So you must proofread. Next, you can quote back using context and identify yourself clearly to cold contacts. So cold contacts are just somebody you are not in regular touch with or you're not familiar with. So you can start with an appropriate introduction such as say hello, I am, and then you can state the reason for why you're writing the email. Next, you can also have something like hello, so and so suggested I contact you, so you can write down a name instead of so and so, and contact you regarding what. So you can state the purpose here. Stating the purpose is always a good idea. So let's look at what would amount to a poor email. So it says John, hey, comma, it's a greeting, so it should be followed by an exclamation. That's a mistake. Then I was just thinking about the meeting we had about new workshop you were planning for next week about resume writing. I think we may have forgotten to include all the students who might benefit from this workshop. There are several groups of students at the School of Public Health that were not on your list. Of course, you may have added them to your list. Since our last meeting, Sarah from the School of Public Health contacted me to ask if students from epidemiology program were on our list. Included students. She also wanted a list of all the included departments of the School of Public Health. Can you send me a list of all the included group students now? So questions are there. There is no segregation into paragraphs. There is just one chunk of entire text and you don't want to read through it. So there is simply a thanks and it says Rachel. So nobody wants to read an email like that. Instead, what you can do is you can minimize all of that and present it in a better way. It can state John, or it can start with Dear Mr. John. That is a formal way of putting it. So it says John, can you send me a list of students included in the resume writing workshop by tomorrow? So this is the purpose which has been stated right in the beginning. We may have forgotten, and why are you asking this? So we'll state that here. We may have forgotten to include all the students who might benefit from this workshop. There are several groups of students at the School of Public Health that were not on your list. Sarah from the School of Public Health contacted me to ask if the students from the epidemiology program were on our list. I will send her that information tomorrow. So the urgency has been stated after I get the list from you. So thanks, Rachel. This email clearly shows it's written to someone known. It's not John is not a cold contact to Rachel. So this is still a preferable way of sending an email. Let's talk about attachments. You will have to use them sparingly. That means don't send too many files. Sending too many files or attachments or images is a big no. You should avoid that. Cut and paste relevant parts of attachment into the text of email. This is called citing information and helps make your email more coherent. You can use URL links also. in case you feel that there are too many attachments, so you can upload the attachment to a website and cite the URL instead of spamming with too many files or attachments. So for example, this website script.com provides free service where you can upload your documents. Next we have the email signature. So use an appropriate signature. It should be brief, that means it should consist of 4 to 5 lines. It should be informative, that means it should provide all your contact information ranging from your professional contact number and address, company logo, should contain your designation right after your name, designation or position. A professional tip would be to not include too many pictures, quotes or animations. A small company logo is acceptable. Okay, now let's discuss about style. When there are threads of conversations, that means there are multiple replies back and forth, so you know that they can get out of hand, but continue to maintain the thread. When they start to drift, start a new thread with explanation. So by this we mean that if they get too many or out of control, or you start losing the content, then you can start a new one and write a small explanation for why you're starting a new one at all, for ease or whatever your reason is. Next, when you're forwarding stuff, please avoid forwarding chain letters. It is not a professional practice and it annoys most people. Also, spamming is not a professional etiquette when it comes to emailing. Then you must wait for 24 hours before sending out another email. That's the ideal wait time. You may write one, save as a draft, but don't send it yet. So let's continue discussing about style a little. So offer to speak on phone or in person. Email is not a good tool for clearing the air. So whenever something needs an immediate response, so you must prefer calling. Email is not a good way to clarify or give explanations. Why? Because it can be easily misunderstood. Never say in an email what you wouldn't say in person or would not like to see in the press or defend in court. So because written information amounts to proof, you must avoid any hassles or any text which is considered dangerous. Once you hit send, you have lost control of the email, so you must proofread until you're satisfied. So one more thing to keep in mind is that you can never really be certain that it was erased from all locations. So a professional practice would be to think of email as permanent, because someone or the other might retain a copy. They might not be as casual about emails as you think they are. So some other important aspects in confidentiality and security. So what you can do is, if there is something that really needs to be protected, you can encrypt your message or add a password to your attachments. That's what you can do. Next, you will have to learn to manage your emails. So Gmail has already done that for you. It has segregated your primary, your social and your promotional inboxes. You can do the same in case you use something else. What you can also do is segregate important information into folders. You have that facility nearly everywhere. So let's discuss a little about confidentiality and security. How do you protect yourself? So unencrypted email is not secure and may be monitored. So all laws governing copyright, defamation, discrimination, or other forms of written communication also apply to email as well. So you should always keep a tab on what is being sent from your end. Then you should be aware of all the password recovery methods in case you lose your in case you lose appropriate info. Then never include any personal or financial information in an email, again because it can be accessed by someone else or can be looked into. So just generally, to protect yourself, try and avoid that. Install a good security suite on your personal computer, that's highly advised. And as much as we hate to do it, use strong passwords. Please do not use your names or nicknames. That's a big no. So discussing a little about confidentiality and security, use encryption. As I've already told you, use digital signatures for important mails only, not everywhere. You can have a separate free email account for newsletters, for white paper registration, etc. Remember to delete your browser history, cache, cookies, user IDs and passwords after using a public internet connection, and always back up your email. Now when you go into the corporate world, these email etiquettes will be expected of you beforehand. Now let's look into the email overload management. So a problem that affects nearly everyone with an email account is the problem of overload. Automated filters will never catch all of the spam. So you should develop a habit of regularly deleting spam manually. So problems from email overload include shortage of storage, or finding appropriate emails. It takes longer to find a specific message, and it is disturbing and stressful to look at. So you must always keep a neat inbox. That's a professional practice. So ways to manage an email overload can be that you can choose your service provider wisely, and you have tons of options from Gmail, Hotmail. Rediff Mail is now old, but it was popular in the old days. So you can choose accordingly. You have tons of options. You have Microsoft accounts, so you have plenty of options there. And do the inbox check on a regular basis. Again, a very professional habit to inculcate is to keep a tab on your inbox. Next, you should organize your emails into folders. Say there is something from work. If you're studying, you can have something from your graduation, your post graduation, your school, any kind of project. You can have separate folders for that, and you must keep a copy of all emails sent. Don't delete, send email. That will help you keep a tab of whatever has been sent out from your end. Next, you must review and clean out folders periodically. So with that, we have come to an end. Please do let me know if you have any questions.